doesn't always have to be a bad thing. There's actually an upside to it. Sometimes anxiety can motivate and stimulate if you can learn how to channel it. This is what the Times cover story is about this week. It's called The Two Faces of Anxiety. We are joined now by Jeffrey Kluger. He's the science editor of Time magazine. Jeffrey, nice to see you. Good morning.
Good morning.
So every day we're talking about the bad economy. We've got bills to pay. We may lose our job. We're worried about that. We're working harder and earning less. So we are an anxious nation. Are we more anxious now as a result of what's going on in the economy? And what's the impact?
Well, we are more anxious than we used to be, and anxiety in the U.S. does follow historical sine wave patterns. At the moment, there are about 40 million American adults, or 18% of all adult Americans, who are suffering from some kind of clinical or subclinical
Nearly 1 in 5.
Nearly 1 in 5 anxiety condition. And some conditions also start in childhood. So that whole cohort is also off that radar.
Diagnosed.
Diagnosed or subclinical, meaning on the way.
Well, you look at places like the battlefield, for instance, an incredibly stressful situation, and
right.
yet only 15% of soldiers come back with PTSD. Does that surprise you? I mean, how much of this is inherited?
A lot of it is inherited. There are 150 genes along what's called the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, which is a region of the brain that controls anxiety, and there are 150 genes that seem to be associated with anomalies in the ability
to process
tension.
So what are the signs?
Well, the signs are, physical signs are, in the case of PTSD, for example, flashbacks of bad experiences, jumpiness, anxiety around certain situations.
But how do you know? Then you look at your mother, you look at your relatives, right? And see if...
And see if they have those. But remember, it isn't just what your genetic legacy is. It's also your experiential legacy. You and I could be siblings, and we could have the exact same genetic legacy. If I've gone to war and you haven't, if you've experienced job loss and I haven't, we get sensitized in certain ways to anxiety.
And then also, a lot of it is how you deal with it. I was fascinated to read in this article that it's clear that some people fall apart. They need help, whether it's medication or counseling. There are other people, like some athletes and performers, who actually channel that anxiety. They use it make it into a positive to better their performance.
Absolutely. And Alice Park, the terrific Time reporter who wrote this piece, pointed out that there's sort of a curve, a performance curve. As that curve begins, anxiety and the quality of your performance march up in lockstep. Athletes and entertainers know how to jump off right at the top of that curve, when their senses are clicking, when everything is moving just right, and they can achieve things in a performance that they couldn't achieve in rehearsal. Other people hang on to that curve and they start to go down the other side when suddenly your tension gets so great that you become paralyzed from it, and that's when you perform less well rather than better.
Grace under fire, is
Grace
that what
under
we're talking
fire,
about?
exactly.
So besides redirecting that